Chapter 1. The News I Wasn't Supposed to Hear. It was a Saturday afternoon, the kind of late spring day where everything feels slightly too perfect. Clear skies, just enough breeze, and friends who bring the good snacks without asking. Wheela was in the kitchen with Jade and Kat, laughing about something I couldn't hear over the hum of the patio speaker. I was out back with Nate, manning the grill. We'd invited a small group over to celebrate Kat's promotion, and for once, it felt like adult life was finally settling into something warm and predictable. That lasted all of 11 minutes. Jade wandered out with a fresh bottle of wine in one hand and that loose, unfiltered tone she only got after 2 glasses. She leaned into Nate, giggling about how Leela had almost passed out at her last appointment. Nate raised a brow. Wait, what appointment? Jade blinked, a beat too slow. Oh, I mean nothing. Just girl stuff. You know. She looked at me then, like she realized she'd said too much. But it was already there, wedged between us like a splinter I couldn't stop touching. Leela had an appointment? I asked. Jade cleared her throat. It's not my business to tell. Just ask her, okay? I did. Later that night, Wheela looked up from the laundry basket like I'd caught her stealing. Her smile was off by a fraction. Oh, that, she said too quickly. It wasn't a big deal. Just routine. My cycle's been weird lately. Something about the way she said it, the way she suddenly wouldn't meet my eyes, put every hair on the back of my neck on edge. It wasn't that I didn't trust her. It was that I did, blindly, for too long. The rest of the evening moved in slow motion. Her touches felt a little too rehearsed, her laugh a little too controlled, and when she kissed me goodnight, I felt her lips, but not her truth. I stared at the ceiling, long after she fell asleep beside me. My thoughts racing past every moment I'd brushed off as paranoia. If she was pregnant, why hadn't she told me? Or worse, who had she told? Chapter 2. The ultrasound envelope. Sunday mornings were usually slow between us. Quiet coffee, grocery lists, half-watched reruns on the couch. But that morning, Leela was in a rush. Said Kat had booked a last-minute table at their favorite cafe and she didn't want to miss it. She kissed me on the cheek, grabbed her tote, then circled back to grab her phone from the charger. Only she didn't actually grab her tote. I didn't realize until an hour later, when I went into the kitchen and nearly tripped over it on the floor by the stool. The contents had spilled slightly. Her wallet, some pens, a tube of lip gloss. And tucked among the chaos was a plain white envelope. No markings except her name, typed out neatly on a printed label, and a small return address tucked into the corner. I wasn't going to open it. I really wasn't. But then I saw the name of the clinic. It was local. A women's health center. The kind that specializes in, among other things, prenatal care. Something prickled in my gut. I stood there for a long time, just holding the envelope, rationalizing, minimizing. And then finally I unfolded the flap and pulled the paper free. It was a single-page printout. Ultrasound confirmation. Patient, Wheela Monroe. Estimated gestation, 7 weeks, 4 days. Estimated date of conception, January 22nd. My vision tunneled for a second. January 22nd. I remembered it clearly, not because of anything monumental between us, but because I hadn't even been in town. I'd been in Denver for a company strategy retreat. I'd flown out the night of the 21st, checked into a hotel, and spent the entire week in back-to-back sessions, client dinners, and late-night team debriefs. I even remembered FaceTiming her from my room, propped against the headboard, exhausted. She'd said she was busy too, that she was finally catching up on sleep. She'd barely made eye contact during that call, said her eyes were tired. That entire week, we barely spoke. I chalked it up to travel fatigue and stress. But now, standing in the kitchen with that document in my hand, I knew better. The math didn't work, not even close. I slid the paper back into the envelope and placed it exactly where I'd found it, carefully arranging the spilled contents to look undisturbed. But my heart was hammering loud enough to drown out every rational thought trying to calm me down. This wasn't just a timeline issue. It was a secret, one she had no intention of sharing with me. And maybe I would have believed whatever story she planned to tell if she'd gotten ahead of it. If Jade hadn't spoken up. If that envelope had stayed buried. But fate had a funny way of pulling threads loose, and this one, it led to something a hell of a lot uglier than a surprise pregnancy. Chapter 3. Her story changes. When Lila got home that night, she dropped her keys in the dish like nothing had shifted, like the day hadn't broken something fundamental in the space between us. She was humming, actually humming. I watched her from the couch, my jaw tight as she walked past me with a half smile and disappeared into the bedroom. She didn't even ask how my day had been. Didn't notice the way my hand was clenched around the remote. Or maybe she did. Maybe she just didn't care. I waited for her to bring it up, to explain. She didn't. 20 minutes later, I followed her into the room. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling her phone like nothing in the world could touch her. I stood in the doorway and cleared my throat. "So," I said, "how's Kat?" She glanced up, mildly surprised. "Good, tired, why?" I shrugged. "Just wondering what you two talked about over brunch." She tilted her head. "Not much, just work. Why?" Her tone was easy, a little too easy. "Because Jade mentioned something yesterday," I said slowly. "Something about an appointment." Her fingers froze on the screen. "Oh, that." I waited. She put the phone down, then took a breath. "It was just a checkup. I didn't mention it because I wasn't even sure what it was. I've been feeling off lately. Some weird fatigue, mood swings, I don't know. So I booked something. But it's nothing serious." I gave her a long look. "A checkup?" She nodded. "Yeah, routine stuff." I walked over and sat beside her. "Lila, are you pregnant?" Her eyes darted toward mine and then away again, fast. "I was going to tell you." "When?" "I don't know. I didn't want to stress you out. You've been so busy with work. And I wasn't even sure if it was viable. They wanted to wait for the ultrasound to confirm things." I swallowed hard. "When was the ultrasound?" She hesitated, just a beat. "I think it was last week." I didn't say anything. Just studied her face, the way her jaw tensed when she thought she was improvising smoothly. "You think it was last week?" I asked. She looked irritated now. "I'm not exactly marking dates in red pen, Jason." I stood. "Right, of course." I didn't push further, not yet, because if she was lying now, if this whole thing was a stitched-together cover story, I needed more than suspicion. I needed proof, and she'd already left one paper trail. I had a feeling she'd leave another. Chapter 4. The phone left unlocked. Lila had always been careful with her phone. Not suspiciously so, just guarded. She never made a show of hiding it, but she also never left it lying around. Always screened down. Always with Face ID enabled. She once joked that privacy was her love language. So when she left it on the bathroom counter while she showered, screen up and buzzing with messages, it didn't feel like an accident. It felt like a crack. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was the way her story had changed. Maybe it was the fact that she'd avoided any physical affection since the night I asked her if she was pregnant. Maybe it was the simple, low-level hum of something being off. Whatever it was, I picked up the phone. No passcode, unlocked. She'd probably been using a face mask app last, and it must have stayed open just long enough for me to see the messages light up. There were several unread ones, but one name caught my eye instantly. M. Just the letter, nothing else. I opened the thread. The first thing I saw was a photo. Blurry, but unmistakably her. Lila, sitting in the passenger seat of someone's car, smiling, and on her stomach. My stomach flipped. The message under it read, "We need to talk. This won't stay quiet forever." That was from him. There were older texts too. One from weeks ago said, "I told you this was a bad idea." Another, "He's not stupid. He'll figure it out eventually." And then her reply, "Not if we play this right. He's barely even asking questions." I scrolled further, heart pounding now. That week in January, the week I'd been in Denver, they'd messaged almost daily. Coordinating, arguing, talking logistics. And one thread in particular made my throat go dry. M. If you're going to tell him, do it soon. Lila, I'm not telling him. He thinks it's his. M. You sure? Lila, he's in love with the idea of me. That's all I need. The shower was still running. I put the phone down like it was radioactive, walked out of the bathroom, closed the door behind me. I didn't rage, didn't scream. I just sat on the edge of the bed, hands gripping my knees so hard they shook. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a performance, and I'd been cast as the idiot in the front row. Chapter 5. History with M. Once you know the truth, your brain starts rewriting the past for you. I kept thinking about Marcus. He was just M in her phone. But I'd known who it was the second I saw that initial. Marcus had been a part of our lives for a while, an old friend from Lila's grad school program, someone she'd always described as like a brother. She'd insisted there had never been anything romantic between them, just shared late nights studying and the occasional vent session about bad dates. I believed her. I didn't have a reason not to. Back then, everything she said carried the weight of trust. But hindsight isn't just 20/20, it's cruel. Marcus had always been around in the background. He never inserted himself overtly, but he didn't have to. He'd show up at group hangouts, send her memes at midnight, leave harmless comments on her photos that towed the line between funny and flirtatious. And Lila always brushed it off with a smirk. He's just like that. I remembered one night in particular. We were at a rooftop bar downtown with friends. Marcus had made a joke, some slick line about Lila's laugh being the reason men forget their place. Everyone laughed, even her. I didn't. She nudged me under the table, whispering, "Don't be jealous. You know you're the one who goes home with me." That night, I'd convinced myself I was being petty, insecure, possessive. I told myself I needed to relax. But now I saw that moment for what it was. A red flag, half buried in charm. Marcus was never just a friend. He was the exit plan, the backup, the one she kept close, just in case. And me? I was the front-facing boyfriend, the stable one, the one she could count on for rent, for emotional support, for status, until she couldn't, or wouldn't. I thought back to the ultrasound envelope, the dates, the way she'd stumbled over her words when I asked questions, and then the texts. She hadn't slipped up once. She'd been building a version of reality so carefully, so deliberately, that even when I found pieces of the truth, I questioned myself first. I didn't know exactly when it started. I didn't know if Marcus had always been in the picture, or if he was just the closest available mistake. But I knew one thing now without a shred of doubt. This wasn't an accident. It was a plan. And I wasn't just outside the loop. I was the mark. Chapter 6. The dinner reservation. I made the reservation before I saw the texts, before I knew. It was supposed to be a surprise, a little reset. I'd found this place downtown, behind a bookstore, the kind of candlelit, off-the-grid restaurant Lila always claimed she loved. I even called ahead to ask about their seasonal menu. The hostess promised they could accommodate a quiet corner for two. Back when I booked it, I felt we just needed time. Space, a reminder that we were still us underneath all the noise. But by the time the date rolled around, I'd already read the ultrasound, already read the messages, already seen her smiling in that other man's car, so I kept the reservation. Not because I still wanted to fix things, but because I wanted to see her. I wanted to know how deep her performance ran. She dressed up like she used to, flattering dress, hair curled, that hint of perfume she only wore on what she called intentional nights. And for a second, walking next to her under the glow of string lights, I felt like I'd slipped back into the version of us that worked. Only I knew now it was a costume. Over dinner, I asked her how work was going. She launched into a story about a client who couldn't decide on a brand color and had changed the campaign direction 3 times. I nodded, asked questions, played along. When the waitress brought out our entrees, Lila leaned forward, smiling. "This is nice. I've missed this." "Me too," I said, but the words burned on the way out. I watched her cut into her food, take delicate bites, sip from her wine glass like she hadn't demolished the foundation we stood on, like nothing had shifted beneath her. I waited until the plates were cleared before I spoke again. "So, I found the ultrasound," I said. She froze, fork halfway to her mouth. The smile vanished. Her voice, when it came, was brittle. "You went through my things?" "No. Your tote fell. It slid out. I read it." She set the fork down gently. "Okay, I was going to tell you." I leaned back. "When?" Her eyes flickered. "I don't know. I wasn't ready. To tell me you're pregnant. Or to tell me who the father is." She stared at me for a long moment, then blinked, just once, and looked away. That silence told me more than words ever could. Chapter 7. The confrontation she didn't expect. Leela didn't answer that night. Not directly. She deflected, pivoted, gave me some vague half-truth about being confused and needing more time, but I could see it unraveling behind her eyes. The part where she realized the lie had run out of road. I didn't press her. Not then. Instead, I gave her space. Let her believe I was still wrestling with my own emotions. Still holding out hope. Still attached. In reality, I was lining things up. I started with the clinic. Called and asked about their privacy policy. They wouldn't give me anything, of course, but they did confirm something with their silence. When I mentioned Leela's name, there was a pause. A long one. And the receptionist said, "We can't confirm or deny any patient information." But she sounded rattled, like my call wasn't the first one that week. So someone else knew. Maybe Marcus. Maybe someone else entirely. Either way, it meant the story wasn't just ours anymore. I went through our shared files next. Leela used to back up photos and documents to a shared drive. She'd probably forgotten. Or maybe she thought I'd never look. But tucked inside a folder labeled Travel, 2022 was a zip file she must have dragged over by accident. It was a screenshot archive. Text messages, photos, voicemails. Half were mundane. Work gossip, meal plans, screenshots of funny memes. But the rest, they painted the picture. She and Marcus had been talking for months, long before Denver. Some of the earliest messages had pet names. Miss you. Can't stop thinking about that night. In one message from November, he asked if she was sure she wanted to keep pretending. Her reply was chilling in its clarity. Jason's safe. He's not exciting, but he shows up. I'm not ready to blow that up yet. Not if, not maybe, just not yet. That night, I sat on the couch and watched her sleep on the other end. The same woman who once cried in my arms when she thought she'd lost a freelance gig. The same woman who now carried a child she'd pinned on me like a mask. She didn't stir once. Didn't know that everything had changed. Didn't know I had everything I needed now. She'd lied to the wrong person. And soon, I'd show her just how carefully I could burn a bridge. Chapter 8. A message meant for him. I don't know what I expected when I walked through the door that afternoon. Maybe a quiet house. Maybe Leela curled up on the couch with one of those wellness podcasts she pretended to listen to. What I didn't expect was her phone ringing on the kitchen counter. Unlocked. Again. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. She must have been in the shower. I could hear the faint hum of water behind the closed bathroom door. Her phone lit up once, twice, buzzing with a call she didn't answer. The name on the screen stopped me cold. Marcus. No last name. Just his first, bold, centered. I didn't answer, because 2 seconds later, the voicemail app popped up, and then came the text. Still nothing? You said you were going to tell him this week. Don't make me do it for you. That was all. No emojis, no warmth, just pressure. I took a seat at the kitchen table and stared at that message, letting it sink in. Marcus wasn't just part of the secret. He was actively threatening her with exposure, and she was stalling. Again, playing both sides while hoping one would fizzle out before it caught fire. I copied the message, emailed it to myself, then went into the voicemail app and found something even worse. He'd left a message 3 days ago. I hit play. His voice was low, clipped, and furious. Get a grip, Leela. I'm not raising this kid while he's still in the picture. Tell him, or I will. And if I have to be the villain in your story, I will be loud. She'd kept that from me? The water shut off. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. When she walked into the room, wrapped in a towel, she gave me a soft, practiced smile. Hey, you're home early. I smiled back. Figured I'd surprise you. She walked over and kissed me like we were fine. Like the walls weren't caving in around her. And I let her. Because now I wasn't guessing anymore. I wasn't trying to confirm the truth. I was planning the fallout. And she wouldn't see it coming. Chapter 9. My appointment, her shadow. The thing about suspicion is that once it plants itself, it grows roots everywhere. Even in places you didn't think to look. I booked my own appointment. Not at the same clinic Leela had gone to. That ship had sailed. but at a different one across town. A quiet, private practice that offered discreet paternity consultations. I didn't need a scene. I needed certainty. The woman behind the desk didn't flinch when I told her what I wanted. "You're not the first," she said gently, sliding over the consent forms. "Won't be the last." She handed me an information sheet with the types of tests available. Postnatal, prenatal, non-invasive. I circled the one that could be done without her knowledge. A test that would use her medical paperwork, once subpoenaed or retrieved through consent. But for now, all I could do was get prepped. I submitted my sample, signed the waiver, and left the clinic feeling like I'd just stepped off a ledge and was waiting to hit something on the way down. I didn't tell Leela where I'd gone. I didn't need to, because she was already watching me. That night, she asked casually, "Where were you today?" "You said you were going to work from home." Her tone was light, but her eyes tracked mine too closely. "I took a meeting downtown. Client lead changed locations last minute," I said. A clean lie, the kind she used to serve me with coffee. She nodded, but there was a flicker, barely visible, in her expression. She knew I was off script. She wasn't the only one acting now. Later that week, I walked past her office and heard her on the phone. She was whispering, low and urgent. I stopped just out of sight. "I'm trying, Marcus, I swear. He's being weird." Too calm. A pause. "No, I didn't tell him it might not be his. I said I was late. That's it." Another pause. "I will. Just give me more time. Please." That was it. The full admission. And it wasn't whispered to me in regret. It was confessed to someone else out of fear. I left the hallway, heart pounding, and opened my email. I forwarded the recording I'd made of her call to a secure folder. It wasn't legal evidence, not yet, but it was leverage, and it would be enough for what came next. Chapter 10, The Revelation, Dinner. It was a Thursday night when I invited her out again. Same quiet restaurant as before, same table by the window. But this time, I wasn't asking questions. I was staging a finale. She wore that green dress I liked, the one she knew made my jaw slack the first time she wore it to my firm's gala. She looked confident, collected, like a woman walking into the arms of a man she still had wrapped around her finger. We ordered wine. She didn't touch hers. I let her lead the conversation. For the first 20 minutes, we talked about everything except the obvious. The weather, a movie trailer she'd seen, some influencer's scandal that made her sick. She was charming, composed, but I saw the cracks. She was trying too hard to keep the surface still. Once the entrees arrived, I pulled a small envelope from my coat pocket and set it between us. "What's this?" she asked, laughing a little. "Another surprise?" "Something like that." She opened it slowly. Inside, a printed screenshot of the text from Marcus, the voicemail transcription, a time-stamped copy of her call, the one she didn't know I heard. Leela didn't speak. Her hand tightened on the paper. Her jaw locked, and her lips parted just slightly. "Go ahead," I said, nodding toward the papers. "Tell me how I'm misunderstanding this." Her eyes darted to mine, then to the window, then to the plate in front of her, anywhere but straight ahead. "You went through my phone," she said finally. "That's your angle? Not that you lied to me for months, but that I found out?" I didn't mean to lie. She stopped herself, took a breath. "It was complicated." "It's not anymore." I leaned forward. "I know the baby isn't mine. I know it's Marcus's. And I know you've been playing both of us because you thought neither one of us would walk." Silence, dense and immediate. Then softly she whispered, "So, what now?" I stood up. "You keep the lie. You keep Marcus. You keep everything you've built around it." I paused. "But you lose me." Chapter 11, Detachment Day. The apartment was silent the next morning. Not quiet, silent. A kind of hollow stillness that you only notice when something permanent has cracked open. Leela was still in bed, or pretending to be. I didn't care. I packed quickly, precisely. Half the things in that apartment had been mine. Furniture, tech, the art on the walls she used to get compliments on. But I didn't take any of it. I wanted clean separation, not court-level division. I left her the couch, but I took the charger she always stole from my nightstand. Petty, maybe, but it felt symbolic. My suitcase was zipped, my keys in hand when I saw the ring box. Not that kind of ring. Just a small vintage trinket box she'd used to store keepsakes, notes, ticket stubs, charms from places we said we'd visit again. For a split second, I reached for it. Then I stopped. She could have the memories. Let them rot in sentimentality. I wrote a note instead. One line. Truth always shows up, sometimes dressed like silence. I didn't sign it. Didn't leave a forwarding address. I locked the door behind me and walked down the hallway with steps that finally felt like mine. Like the weight had lifted, not just from my chest, but from the floor itself. Like I'd stopped sinking. I didn't go to a friend's place. Didn't check into a hotel. I went to the condo I'd bought 6 months ago. The one Lila never knew about. I'd planned to propose, to move us in, to start something new. Now it was my sanctuary, my reset. The building concierge greeted me with a smile. Back for good? I smiled back. Better than good. Inside. The place was bare bones. Just the furniture I'd picked out, the kitchen stocked with coffee and frozen pizza, but it was mine, not shared, not compromised. Just me and the echo of choices I'd made without her influence. That night I turned off my phone. Let her call if she wanted. Let her spiral if she had to. I was done with being the fool in someone else's story. Now I was writing my own ending. Chapter 12. The baby shower invitation. The envelope was cream-colored. Heavyweight. Expensive enough to feel official. No return address. Just my name, Jason Hale, scrawled in Lila's handwriting, like it still belonged on my countertop. Inside, a pastel invitation trimmed in gold. Please join us for a celebration of new life. The baby shower. Her baby shower. It was being hosted at a country club I'd once taken her to for a corporate holiday party. Back then, she'd gushed about the chandeliers and the panoramic view of the golf course. I'd laughed and said someday maybe. Apparently, someday had arrived, just not with me. I stared at the names listed below the RSVP line. Lila and Marcus. There it was, in ink. No longer hidden in voicemails or silences or late-night whispers behind half-shut doors. They were public now, together. Legitimate in the eyes of people who didn't know what it took to get there. The RSVP card had 3 options. Gladly attend, regretfully decline, send gift only. I grabbed a pen and scribbled something else entirely. I already gave you everything once. Hope it was enough. No signature, no return address, just the truth. I sealed it, walked it to the mailbox, and dropped it in without flinching. Later that night, I got a text from a mutual friend. Did you hear she's calling it a fresh start? Like none of it ever happened. I didn't respond, because of course she was. That had always been Lila's specialty. Recasting the story, centering herself, brushing off the wreckage like confetti. What mattered now wasn't her version, it was mine. I kept the copy of her ultrasound in a drawer at my new place, not as a keepsake, as a reminder. A marker of the line I would never let someone cross again. I wasn't going to torch her publicly. I didn't need to. She'd already lit the match herself. All I had to do was stop standing in the flames. Epilogue. Close tabs. It had been 8 months since I walked out. Since I left the ring dish, the apartment, and the woman who thought I'd always choose peace over truth. I got a new job, bigger title, better pay, less drama. When people asked if I'd been through anything tough lately, I gave them a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes and said, just a little spring cleaning. No one ever pushed. The last loose thread came one rainy Sunday afternoon. I was sitting at the window of my new condo, watching the sky blur into concrete, when I saw the message pop up on my laptop. It was from Lila. Subject, just this once. There was no greeting. Just the body of the message, written like she was finally out of spin. Jason, I know you don't owe me anything. Not a response, not your time, and definitely not your forgiveness. But I need you to know something. The baby's name is Oliver. He looks like Marcus, but he's got my grandmother's eyes. I still think about the day I found out I was pregnant. I remember panicking, not because I didn't know what to do, but because I knew the truth would break everything safe. And it did. You were never the backup plan. You were the only real thing. And I'm sorry, I treated your love like a safety net instead of a choice. If you ever want to talk, you know where to find me. If not, I hope you find someone who sees you the first time. Leela. I read it once, then again, then I closed the tab. Not out of bitterness, out of peace. Because the truth was, I had found someone who saw me the first time. She was across the room, barefoot in the kitchen, swearing softly at a recipe she was butchering with a wooden spoon. Her name was Renee. We met at a conference 3 months after everything ended. She was honest, sharp, unimpressed by facades, and best of all, she never made me guess where I stood. I walked over, kissed her on the cheek, and took the spoon from her hand. Let me, I said. She smiled. Too soft for this dish? I grinned back. Depends who's asking.
Thanks so much for watching. If you love a good revenge story, or if you've ever dreamed of getting the last word without saying much at all, you're in the right place. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new savage ending. Because around here, karma always hits different.